you notice in this video some parts that the people use word that does not belong to the system of the language that they were speaking. Could you notice some of them?
Yeah.
Someone could tell me two, please?
Challenge.
Friend zone.
Focus.
Yeah. For example, every day, a lot of people around the world are using words that do not belong to their native language, and they adapt these words and take them and use it as their own. So the topic that I'm going to be presenting today is borrowing. Borrowing is a linguistic phenomenon and changes made on lexical borrowing entering from Turkish and English. So, next one please. Here I'm going to be explaining what is borrowing, the reasons for borrowing, the methods used for borrow, and here I'm going to give examples from other languages, but I'm going to be specializing on Turkish. So words that Turkish language take from other languages, especially English. So let's start with what is borrowing. It can also be known as loans, borrow words, and learn words. And there's a lot of theories about this phenomenon, and every author has their own belief of what is borrowing. For example, Hudson said that it's a word, phrase, structure, etc., which is taken from one language into another. Haugen says that it's a time reproduction of patterns in language previously found in another. But if we look for other authors, they say that this shouldn't be called borrowing. Because when you borrow something, you take it, and then you return it. But in language, it never happens. You make it from your own. So that's why there's a lot of words to know this process that is borrowing. So why borrowing happens? Well, there are many reasons, but they could be theorized in this next that I'm going to tell you. The first one is bilingualism. Here it says that the bilinguals are like a bridge. They connect two languages, and they have the option to use, for example, today I'm speaking English, and I use one expression from Spanish, because I know Spanish, I know the morphological and phonological part, so I can use the word and make it like using it in English. The next one is the stem. It says that it is the benefits that one language could have by using those words from another country. The other country, most of the times, is a dominant. So it could be economical or media. For example, America is well known around the world because they have a lot of information about technology. They are known to have really good films, music. So all the languages are exposed to this English language, and they are starting using it. The next point is trend. This means that people use it to be like fashion. They want to be the cool guys, so they want to show off sometimes using another words from other languages. And the other point is education. For example, in the Renaissance, Latin was considered the language for education. So only educated people used Latin. They were sophisticated, and that's why it's like the influence that the language had on the knowledge for them. So that's why they had a lot of anatomy and medicine textbooks on Latin. So now let's move on to the methods used to borrow words. There are a lot, and I'm going to start with translation. This is when you are having a word that is or sentence or phrase that you translate literally from another language. I have the example here of, in English, people most of the time say, that goes without saying. But they don't know that this sentence was translated from French. And the origin is ça va sans dire. So that means that if you observe it, they do not have the same morphological part, and the phonological part are not resemble. So they are just translated. They are just like taken like a base to have their own point. The word, the Turkish word that we have here is kendini bak. That it means take care of yourself. They translate the phrase take care of yourself from English, and they adapt it to, of course, to the system, to the phonological and morphological part. and they got something like this. The next method is transliteration. This means that the words are spelled like the pronunciation that the word has. For example, we have here the word disco. I think most of you know this word. So Chinese, they adapted the spelling to the phonological part for them to be easier. They write something like this and they pronounce like disco. It's very similar for them. The next one is a trademark, that is Adidas. So they adapted the word and they add one I and the end of the word. So it's Adidas, Adidas. So they don't have to know. I do not speak Chinese, so it's something related to that. For them it's very similar, so they adapted the word to pronounce it like that. In Turkish, this happens a lot. For example, we have the word Subasman, that is pronounced Subasman, but they took it from French. And this is like a, I don't know if you know this word, like it's like a wall made of rock. The next one is accessible, that they took it from English, that is accessible. That is the same pronunciation, but they adapted to pronounce it like the correct way. The next is coupon, that is from French, and if you observe it's the same spelling, for them it's pronounced same. But I don't know if you noticed this, but we have some words similar to this in English. So they were words from French too. The
Then
next
the
method
last
is,
one, the last one. You're
Sorry.
missing one word, right?
let's go on.
Season.
So they pronounce it like sisu, and it's spelled like this in French, but they adapted to pronounce it like exactly the same position of
The way it sounds.
pronunciation. The next one is euphemism. That this is when a language don't want to be like very embarrassed or unpleasant to say a word that for them and for their culture is not allowed. For example, we have the word tuberculous. This is taken from French, but I don't know why they don't like to say it, so they change it for Arabic, and they say like hastalik. And the other, it makes a little bit more sense for, but I don't agree with it. That is, they don't like to say homosexual from French, so they change it to Hamaramlini from Arabic. Because for their culture, it is not allowed to say those kind of things that are very tough, strong for them.
Now, like in Mexico, what do you say? Boobies? Now everybody say boobies because they don't want to say senos.
Also, people prefer to say sex instead of sexo, because they don't want to be like rude.
Oh yeah, sexo is very strong.
Or the genitals in English.
Ah, yes.
The next method is initialisms and acronyms. Initialisms is when we combine letters, but we pronounce it letter by letter. For example, CD, that means compact disc, PO, post office, HP, horsepower, and we have the acronyms that are combination letters, but they are pronounced like it's a single word. For example, NASA, TOEFL, and UNICEF. So here you pronounce it letter by letter, but here you make like a phrase, like a single sound. The next method is adaptation. That this means that it depends on how open is the language that is going to use it. Because maybe they are able to, or they are willing to take another word, and they don't want to change it in any way. So it stays in the same part in the morphological and phonological way. This also depends on bilinguals. If the people have the knowledge about the language that are taking the word, they will use it exactly how it is used in the original language. So we have here some Turkish words taken from English that has the same pronunciation and the same spelling. There is calorie, hacker, chat, sponsor, checkup, rock, I can see, check-in, trend, factory, chore, fitness center, and business class.
Sure.
Of course, there are a lot more, but this is a chart. Let's go to the next one. The next one is adaptation. That is when you use a language, but as you do not have it on your system, the sounds or the spelling, you have to change it. because it's easy for you, so you don't want to get in the mess of trying to pronounce things that you don't know. They can be grammatical or logical. Here we have the name.
Don Quixote.
Someone could tell me this name? Uh-huh. This is a Spanish. This is a Spanish book, so we know how to pronounce it correctly. But for English, that is different, and they pronounce it like Don Quixote. And that's why even when it's the same spelling, they change the phonological part of the word, and they adapt it to their own syntactic constraints. The next change is grammatical. For example, in Turkish, Turkish took a word from Arabic that is Hayr. You see the Y and the R together? As Turkish do not have these kind of things. When you have the Y and the R together, they cannot be together for them. It's hard. So they have to change it, and they put one I to make it easy for them. Higher. Is the same thing for them. So they adapted the morphological part to have a sense for them. So now let's move on to some words that were borrowed from English to Turkish. And they have some changes, but I don't know if you could notice, see them. We have the word fundamentalist. We know how to pronounce it in English. It's the same spelling in Turkish, but they changed some sounds. For example, here they have the...
Schwa?
No, it's not a straw. Well,
Yes, it's a
in
stress
this
schwa.
one, yeah, but this is like the up.
Like this? It's a stress schwa.
Stress or straw.
But
And
you
they
don't
change
say
it-
the name of the sound,
And
it's not
they
the
change
sound.
it for and we have another word. Here I noticed that the article used the British phonetical system because they have like hawk and we know that in America they say like park. So they use the British way. But they pronounce it like Americans, the Turkish phonetical word. We have park. But it's exactly the same from English. We have also the slogan. They changed like the slogan. They changed the schwa sound. Sponsored. Sponsored is exactly the same. I know what else. Start. Start is the same. Stop. Stop is the same. So let's move to the next slide. And they also include some notes of what he noticed from the Turkish word taken from English. For example, he noticed that when we have the CE word, they change it and put an S instead of the CA. C, for example, ons, and they changed the CE for ons. The next one is the letter Y. They change it for the letter I. Derby, derby. The next note that he has is like the G. They change it for the J. Yeah? So right now we already checked the different definitions for borrowing. We checked how the reasons of why borrowing happens. We also covered the part of the methods to borrow words or loan words. And we analyzed some examples of different language, for example, French, Arabic, Turkish, in order to have make clear what we're talking about. So right now we know that borrowing is something that happens. It is a cultural phenomenon. It happens most of the time for culture. We want to show off. We want to be on the trend.